What would you do if the daughter of an Apache chief secretly invited you to meet her at midnight? Ethan thought it was just a mysterious note until he found himself surrounded by 5 armed Apache warriors, accused of betraying an entire tribe. But what happened next changed everything. A forbidden love, a deadly secret, and a dangerous alliance that could either bring peace or start a war. Stay until the end, because this unforgettable story takes shocking turns you will never see coming. Watch Love in the Wild West on the next video app as soon as possible. Please subscribe to my channel. Here is the English translation of the script. I have corrected the inconsistent spelling of the protagonist's name, standardizing it to *Ethan, and smoothed out the narrative flow for better readability while maintaining the dramatic tone. The setting sun painted the Arizona sky in shades of orange and red. When Ethan Carter arrived in the town of San Rafael, he had ridden for 3 days from his ranch in search of supplies, and all he wanted was a good rest. But fate had other plans for him. As he tied his horse in front of the general store, a woman caught his attention. She was different from all the other women in town. Her tanned skin glowed under the golden light of the sunset, and she wore a dress that blended Apache style with settler details. Her name was Naira, and she worked as a translator between her tribe and the colonists. Ethan entered the store and began browsing the shelves. He needed coffee, flour, and some tools. As he paid the shopkeeper, he felt someone watching him. He turned his head slightly, and his eyes met Naira's. It was only for a second, but something changed in that moment. A spark, an inexplicable connection that left him breathless. Naira approached him with cautious steps. The shopkeeper watched them with curiosity, but she seemed not to care. She stopped beside him and pretended to examine some fabrics, but Ethan could feel the tension in the air. "Excuse me, sir," she whispered in perfect Spanish, so low that only he could hear her. "This is very bold of me, but I need to speak with you." Ethan looked at her, surprised. Her voice was soft but firm, full of determination. "With me? Why?" he asked, keeping his voice low as well. Naira discreetly slid a small folded piece of paper onto the counter near Ethan's purchases. Their fingers brushed for barely a second, but that touch sent an electric current through his entire body. "Read this when you are alone," she murmured, "and please come. It is important." Before Ethan could respond, Naira had already moved away, leaving the store with the grace of a deer in the forest. The shopkeeper smiled mockingly. "That's Naira," the man said, "daughter of Chief Jalok. She lives between 2 worlds, if you understand what I mean. Her tribe doesn't fully trust her, and neither do some folks in town." Ethan nodded without saying anything, discreetly pocketing the paper. His heart was pounding. He paid for his goods and headed toward the small boarding house where he would spend the night. Once in his room, with the door closed and the oil lamp lit, Ethan unfolded the paper. The handwriting was beautiful, clearly educated. The message left him cold. "Midnight, the great cottonwood tree in the valley to the north. I must see you, but be careful. My brother Takota and his warriors patrol that area. If they discover you there, they will think the worst. Come only if you are brave. Naira." Ethan read the message 3 times. Every fiber of his being told him this was madness. He didn't know this woman. It could be a trap. But something in her eyes, in that brief glance they shared, told him this was real. What would you do in Ethan's place? Would you go to a secret midnight date with an Apache woman, risking discovery by warriors who might misinterpret everything? Aim. Reminder, if you are enjoying this story, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We would also love to know which country you are listening from. Write your city or country in the comments. It makes our day and helps us create more stories like this. The hours passed slowly. Ethan tried to sleep but couldn't. By 11 p.m., he was fully dressed, checking his horse. He carried no weapons, a conscious decision. If he was going to this meeting, it would be in peace. The full moon illuminated the path as Ethan rode north. The valley was about 20 minutes from town, and the great cottonwood was famous in the region, an ancient tree, witness to hundreds of years of history. As he approached, his heart beat faster and faster. Would she be there, or had she changed her mind? Worse yet, was it really a trap? The cottonwood appeared before him, majestic under the moonlight, and there, standing next to the tree, was Naira. She wore a shawl over her shoulders, and her long hair fell freely down her back. When she saw him arrive, a smile lit up her face. "You came," she said, with evident relief in her voice. "I did," replied Ethan, dismounting his horse. "Although I must admit, this is the riskiest thing I've done in a long time." Naira approached him, and under the moonlight Ethan could see her eyes clearly. They were deep, filled with intelligence and something else, hope. "I needed to see you because," she began, but suddenly stopped. Her eyes widened in alarm. "Hide quickly!" Ethan heard the sound of approaching horses, several horses and voices speaking in Apache. The night had barely begun, and danger was already here. Ethan's heart hammered against his chest like a war drum. The voices approached rapidly, and the sound of hooves resonated on the dry earth of the valley. Naira grabbed his arm firmly, pulling him behind the tree. "Now!" she whispered urgently, but it was too late. 5 riders emerged from the shadows, surrounding them in seconds. Their horses formed a perfect circle around Ethan and Naira. The moonlight revealed their serious faces, painted with traditional Apache warrior marks. At the front was Dakota, Naira's older brother. He was tall and strong, with a presence that was intimidating even in the darkness. His dark eyes shone with a mixture of surprise and fury as he looked at his sister and then at Ethan. "Naira," said Dakota in Spanish. His voice was deep and controlled, but charged with emotion. "What does this mean? A secret meeting with a white man in the middle of the night?" Naira stepped forward, placing herself between Ethan and her brother. Her voice was firm, fearless. "Dakota, this is not what you think. I needed to speak with him. It is important." "Important?" One of the warriors spat the word. "What can be so important as to betray your own people?" Ethan raised his hand slowly, showing he carried no weapons. His mind raced, searching for the right words. He knew one wrong move could end very badly for both of them. "Gentlemen," he began in clear, respectful Spanish, "my name is Ethan Carter. I did not come here with bad intentions. Naira asked me to come, and I came unarmed as a sign of respect." Dakota dismounted from his horse with a fluid motion. He walked slowly toward Ethan, studying him with eyes that seemed to look directly into his soul. The other warriors remained mounted, vigilant. "I know your name, Ethan Carter," said Dakota. "You have a ranch to the east. They say you are a just man, that you cause no trouble. But this," he pointed between him and Naira, "this is a very big problem." Naira intervened again, her voice now more emotional. "Dakota, please, let me explain. I invited him because I need his help. There is something you all need to know." "What kind of help?" asked Dakota, not taking his eyes off Ethan. "What can this man do that we cannot?" The atmosphere was so tense it could be cut with a knife. Ethan could feel sweat running down his back, despite the cold night air. But there was something in Dakota's eyes that wasn't just anger. There was also confusion, and perhaps a flicker of humanity. Naira took a deep breath. "He has access to information that we do not have. Ethan trades with many ranchers in the region. I have been observing him for months. He is honest, unlike the others." Dakota arched an eyebrow, looking now at his sister with new surprise. "You have been observing him for months?" Color rose to Naira's cheeks, visible even under the moonlight. Ethan realized in that moment that this was much more than a simple request for help. There was something deeper between them, something he himself hadn't fully understood until this instant. "Yes," admitted Naira, lifting her chin with pride, "because I needed to be sure he was the right man. And he is." One of the younger warriors laughed bitterly. "This is ridiculous. The chief's daughter, in love with a white man. Our father will never allow it." "I didn't say anything about love," protested Naira, but her voice sounded less convincing now. Dakota raised his hand, silencing everyone. He walked in circles around Ethan, examining him as if he were a horse he was considering buying. Finally, he stopped in front of him. "Very well, Ethan Carter. My sister says you are an honest man. Let's test that right now. Why did you really come? And think carefully about your answer, because I will know if you are lying." Ethan looked at Naira, who returned his gaze with pleading eyes. Then he looked directly into Dakota's eyes. In that moment he made the riskiest decision of his life, to tell the complete truth. "I came because when I saw Naira today in town, something changed inside me. I came because her note awakened my curiosity, but mostly," he paused, choosing his words carefully, "I came because I felt it was important to be here, and now that I am in front of you, I know I was right." The silence that followed was absolute. Even the horses seemed to hold their breath. The warriors looked at each other, and Dakota narrowed his eyes. "That is a brave answer," he said finally, "or very foolish. I haven't decided which yet." Suddenly, a distant sound broke the tension. It was the gallop of more horses coming from the south. Many horses. Dakota spun around sharply. "Those are not ours." Everyone alert. The warriors drew their weapons, and in an instant, the conflict between them and Ethan took a back seat. A greater danger was approaching in the darkness, and it was about to reveal that this night was just beginning to uncover its secrets. The horse hooves rumbled closer, breaking the silence of the night like distant thunder. Dakota raised his hand, signaling positions to his warriors with quick and precise gestures. In seconds, everyone was prepared, hidden strategically behind the great cottonwood and nearby rocks. "You two get down," Dakota ordered Ethan, pushing him along with Naira behind the thick trunk of the tree. Ethan obeyed without protest. He could feel Naira's accelerated breathing beside him, her shoulder brushing against his. Despite the danger, or perhaps precisely because of it, he was intensely aware of her proximity. Soon, figures emerged from the darkness. They were not Apache warriors. They were 6 men from the town, riding tired horses, carrying torches that illuminated the night with an unsettling orange glow. Ethan recognized some of them. Cowboys from the Morrison Ranch, known for their aggressive behavior and problems with liquor. Riding at the front was Jack Morrison himself, the owner of the largest ranch in the region. He was a burly man with a thick beard and small eyes that always seemed to be looking for trouble. "I knew we would find you here," said Morrison with a rough voice, stopping about 20 meters from the cottonwood. "The trackers were right. Apaches lurking near our lands again." Dakota emerged from the shadows with deliberate calm, his warriors remaining hidden but ready. He spoke in clear, loud Spanish. "These are not your lands, Morrison. This valley belongs to neutral territory. You have as much right to be here as we do." Morrison spat on the ground. "Neutral territory? Huh, there is no such thing. This land will be mine soon, bought and paid for. And when that happens, I don't want to see any of you near here." "The land cannot be bought or sold," responded Dakota firmly. "The land belongs to everyone and no one. That is something your people have never understood." One of Morrison's cowboys, a young man with a reddish face named Pete, pointed toward the rocks. "Boss, there are more of them hidden. I can see them." The tension spiked instantly. Morrison's men gripped their weapons, and the Apache warriors did the same. Ethan felt Naira tremble slightly beside him. He had to do something before this escalated into violence. Without thinking twice, Ethan stepped out from behind the tree with his hands raised. "Morrison!" "It's me, Ethan Carter." Surprise crossed Morrison's face. "Carter? What the hell are you doing here with these savages?" "I'm here because I heard rumors in town," interrupted Ethan quickly, improvising. "Rumors about trouble in the valley. I came to investigate on my own." Morrison looked at him with distrust. "And you just happened to run into an Apache patrol? How convenient." Ethan walked slowly toward Morrison, keeping his hands visible. His mind was working at full speed. He needed an explanation they could believe. It wasn't coincidence. They heard the rumors, too. "Dakota and I were about to talk when you arrived. There is something both sides need to know." "What rumors?" asked Morrison, his interest clearly awakened despite his distrust. Ethan noticed a flash of movement behind Morrison. Naira had also come out of her hiding spot, placing herself next to her brother. Her presence changed something in the atmosphere. Morrison looked at her with narrowed eyes. "Ah, the translator," he said with poorly disguised contempt. "Always in the middle of everything, aren't you? Neither here nor there." "Show respect," warned Dakota, stepping forward. "She is my sister and the daughter of our chief." "Calm down, everyone," said Ethan, raising his voice to capture attention. "Morrison, the rumors speak of cattle rustlers operating in this area. They have been stealing livestock from several ranches, including yours. Am I wrong?" Morrison stood still. His silence was answer enough. "And you?" Ethan turned to Dakota. "You have also noticed that some of your horses have disappeared in the last few weeks, correct?" Dakota nodded slowly, his eyes showing surprise at this knowledge. Naira spoke then, her voice clear and educated. "Ethan is right. I have been gathering information from both sides. The thieves are neither from the town nor the tribe. They are outsiders who are taking advantage of the tension between us to operate freely." "And I'm supposed to believe this?" Morrison laughed bitterly. "The word of an Apache and a lone cowboy?" "No," responded Ethan firmly. "You are supposed to use your head, Morrison. Think about it. The thefts started 2 months ago, just when that group of miners arrived at the West Canyon. Those men need meat and horses, and they don't care where they get them from." Pete, the young cowboy, leaned toward Morrison and whispered something. Morrison frowned, clearly considering the information. "Furthermore," continued Naira, "I myself saw 3 strange men lurking near the river 5 days ago. They were not from our tribe nor from the town. They carried mining tools." Silence stretched as everyone processed this information. Ethan could feel the critical moment approaching. Either Morrison accepted the possibility of a common threat, or he dismissed it, and the conflict would continue. Finally, Morrison lowered his weapon. "Very well," he said slowly. "Let's say I believe you. What do you propose we do about it?" Ethan looked at Dakota, who in turn looked at Naira. In that moment, a silent understanding passed between the three. This was bigger than their personal differences. "I propose," said Ethan, "that we work together to find these thieves, at least temporarily." The proposal hung in the air, heavy with possibilities. Morrison let out a dry laugh that echoed in the valley. "Work together with Apaches? Carter, you've lost your mind." "He hasn't lost anything," intervened Naira, stepping forward. Her voice was firm, polite, but full of conviction. "He has found the only logical solution. While we fight among ourselves, the true thieves enrich themselves with our losses." Pete, the young cowboy, cleared his throat. "Boss, Morrison, she has a point. We've lost almost 30 head of cattle in the last 6 weeks. If this continues, the ranch will suffer serious losses." Morrison glared at him but didn't contradict him. The numbers spoke for themselves. Dakota crossed his arms over his chest. "My father will not be happy with this. Trusting the townspeople has brought only problems to our people." "Then don't tell him yet," suggested Ethan. "This can be just between us, a few men from each side. We find the thieves, recover what was stolen, and everyone goes their separate ways." "And what do you gain from this, Carter?" asked Morrison suspiciously. "You haven't lost cattle. Your ranch is small. You aren't a target." Ethan knew this question would come. He glanced briefly at Naira, whose face was illuminated by the torches. Their eyes met for a second, and he saw hope in hers. "I gain peace," he responded simply. "I live in this region too. If you fight, we all suffer. The town needs to trade with the tribe, and the tribe needs access to the town. This enmity benefits no one except the criminals." One of the Apache warriors, a middle-aged man with scars on his face, spoke in his language to Dakota. The conversation was brief but intense. Finally, Dakota nodded. "Mako says it makes sense," translated Dakota. "He tracked the thieves to the West Canyon 3 days ago. There are at least 10 well-armed men. They operate from a cave near the river." Morrison straightened in his saddle. 10 men. Then we will need more than a handful of cowboys and warriors." "No," said Naira quickly. "A large group would draw attention. The thieves would flee before we could catch them. We need to be smart, not loud." Ethan admired how she took control of the conversation. There was natural authority in her voice. the kind of leadership that is earned, not inherited. The woman is right, admitted Pete, earning another furious look from Morrison. Sorry, boss, but it's true. If we go with 20 men making noise, the thieves will disappear into the mountains. Morrison rubbed his beard, thinking. Greed shone in his eyes as he calculated losses and gains. All right, but I have conditions. I choose which men go from my side, and everything we recover from the stolen cattle is divided proportionally according to each ranch's losses. And the Apache horses return to the tribe, added Dakota firmly. Of course, agreed Morrison with a wave of his hand. I have no interest in your animals. I just want my cattle back and to see those thieves hanging from, delivered to justice. Ethan noted the slip. Morrison clearly wanted vengeance more than justice, but at least he was willing to cooperate. When do we act? Asked Ethan. Mako, the tracker warrior, spoke again. This time Naira translated. He says the thieves move the cattle every 3 days to avoid detection. The next move will be tomorrow at dusk. It is our best chance to catch them red-handed. Tomorrow is too soon, protested Morrison. I need time to organize my men. There is no time, insisted Dakota. If we wait, we lose the opportunity. Mako has studied their patterns for weeks. Tomorrow or never. The tension rose again. Ethan could see that Morrison was not used to being rushed, especially not by Apaches. He needed to intervene before the man changed his mind. Morrison, think about this, said Ethan. 30 head of cattle. At current prices, you are losing a fortune. 1 more day of preparation means 1 more day for those thieves to move your property out of the region. Morrison's eyes narrowed as he did mental calculations. Money had always been his weakness, and Ethan knew it. Damn it, muttered Morrison. All right, tomorrow at dusk. But I want my best men there. You come too, Jenkins and the Rodriguez brothers. I will take Mako and 2 other trackers, said Dakota. They are the best. They can move silently and see in the dark like owls. And I will go too, added Ethan. No, said Morrison and Dakota at the same time. Then they looked at each other, surprised by their momentary agreement. You organized this, Carter, continued Morrison, but you are not a fighter. Leave this to men who know how to handle difficult situations. Ethan was about to protest when he felt a hand on his arm. It was Naira. She subtly shook her head, her eyes telling him not to insist. Very well, agreed Ethan reluctantly, but I want to be informed of everything, and I want to be present when you divide the recovered goods. Deal, said Morrison, extending his hand from horseback. Dakota hesitated for a moment, then shook Morrison's hand. It was brief, almost brusque, but it was a start. We will meet here under this cottonwood tomorrow, 2 hours before dusk, established Dakota and Morrison. Let your men come with respect. Any provocation, and the deal is canceled. As long as yours do the same, responded Morrison, pulling on his horse's reins. The cowboys turned and began to ride away, their torches slowly disappearing into the darkness. When they were finally gone, Dakota turned to Ethan and Naira. This is a huge risk, he said in a low voice. If anything goes wrong, war between our peoples will be inevitable. And if everything goes well, responded Naira with hope, perhaps we can build something better than this fragile peace. Dakota looked at his sister, then at Ethan, and sighed deeply. Sister, we need to speak alone. The Apache warriors retreated discreetly, giving space to Dakota and Naira. Ethan began to move away as well, but Naira stopped him with her voice. No, Ethan, stay. This concerns you too. Dakota arched an eyebrow but did not protest. He walked to the edge of the clearing, where the moonlight created long shadows on the earth. Naira and Ethan followed him, keeping a respectful distance. Sister, began Dakota, without turning around, I am not a fool. I know this night meeting was not just about thief information. Naira took a deep breath. Ethan could feel the tension in her body, but there was also determination. She was not going to back down. You are right, she admitted. I invited him because I needed to know him better. Because for months I have been watching him from afar, and everything I have seen tells me he is different from the other men in town. Dakota finally turned. his dark eyes studying his sister with a mixture of worry and something that looked like resignation. "And what about Kichi? The son of Chief Dasan has been courting you for a year. He is a brave warrior from a good family. Father approves of the union." "Kichi is a good man," said Naira softly, "but my heart does not beat for him. I have tried, Takota. I have truly tried. But when I see Kichi, I only feel respect. When I see—" She stopped, looking briefly at Ethan. "When I see Ethan, I feel something completely different." Ethan felt his heart accelerate. Hearing her say those words aloud in front of her brother took a courage he could barely comprehend. "This will bring trouble," said Takota. But his voice had lost some of its hardness. "Father will never accept it. The elders of the tribe will oppose it. And the town, well," Morrison made clear what many think. "I know," whispered Naira. "That is why I have kept silent for so long, why I only dared to send him a note, hoping that maybe, just maybe, he felt the same." All eyes turned to Ethan. It was his turn to speak, to put his own feelings into words. He felt the weight of the moment, the importance of what he was about to say. "Takota," began Ethan, choosing his words carefully, "I also know this is complicated. I know your family, your tribe, have every reason to distrust. My people have caused much damage over the years." "That is an understatement," murmured Takota, "but not with hostility." "You are right," agreed Ethan. "But I cannot change the past. I can only control my own actions, my own decisions. And the truth is, from the moment I saw Naira today in town, something changed in me. I cannot explain it with words that make sense. I only know I came here tonight because I felt I had to." "That is not enough," said Takota. But there was less conviction in his voice now. "Feelings are like the wind. They come and go. What matters are actions, commitment, honor." "Then let me demonstrate it," responded Ethan firmly. "I do not ask you to approve anything tonight. I only ask for a chance to prove that I am worthy of your sister's trust." Naira looked between the two men, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Mako and the other warriors watched from the distance, clearly aware of the importance of this conversation. Takota walked slowly around Ethan, studying him as he had done before, but this time with a different purpose. It was not a threat he was seeking, but character. "My sister is the smartest person I know," he said finally. "She speaks 3 languages, reads and writes better than many educated men in town. Our father educated her this way, because he always knew she was destined to build bridges between worlds." "I know," said Ethan. "I see it in her, in the way she speaks and how she thinks." "But she is also my little sister," continued Takota, and now his voice softened with genuine emotion. "When she was a child, she used to follow me everywhere. She asked nonstop questions. Why is the sky blue? Why do birds fly? Why do people fight? Always seeking to understand the world." Naira smiled through tears. "And you always had patience to answer, even when I drove you crazy with my questions." "Someone had to do it," said Takota with a small smile. "Mother was too busy and father was too strict. So I became your protector, your teacher, your friend." He turned completely toward Ethan, and in his eyes there was now something more than distrust. "If you hurt my sister, if you betray her trust in any way, there will be no place in this territory where you can hide from me. Do you understand?" "Completely," responded Ethan without hesitation. Takota paused for a long time. "If it turns out you are the man she believes you are, then you will have my support. It will not be easy. Father will resist. The elders will protest. Kichi and his family will feel insulted, but Naira deserves to choose her own path." Naira let out a small sob and hugged her brother. Takota held her awkwardly, clearly unused to public displays of affection, but his expression was tender. "Thank you, brother," she whispered. "I knew you would understand." "I didn't say I understood," grumbled Takota, but there was humor in his voice. "I said I would support you. There is a difference." They separated, and Takota looked at the sky. The moon had traveled a good distance since this long night began. "It is late. We all need to rest for tomorrow. The operation against the thieves will be dangerous, and we need to be alert." "Can I speak with Naira for a moment alone?" asked Ethan, Dakota considered it. Then he nodded. 5 minutes. I will be there, he pointed to a spot about 30 meters away, where I can see you but not hear you. He walked away, giving them the promised space. Ethan and Naira were left alone under the great cottonwood, with the moon as the only witness. I can't believe all this is happening, said Naira, her voice trembling. This morning I only hoped to be able to talk to you for a few minutes. Now, everything has changed. Ethan completed the thought. He took her hands in his, feeling their warmth, their softness. Naira, I need you to know something. This is not an impulse for me. When I saw you today, it was as if I recognized something I had been searching for without knowing it. I felt the same, she confessed. That is why I dared to write that note. That is why I risked everything to see you tonight. Ethan squeezed her hands gently. I have lived alone for a long time. After my parents died, I focused only on the ranch, on surviving. I stopped thinking about the future, about the possibility of sharing my life with someone. But today, when our eyes met, you felt that life made sense again, she finished for him. Me too, Naira. I have lived between two worlds all my life, never belonging completely to either. In town they see me as the Apache. In the tribe some see me as too close to the town. I have always been the translator, the mediator, but never simply Naira. To me, you are simply Naira, said he, and that is more than enough. She looked at him with eyes that shone in the moonlight. Really? You don't mind that my skin is darker, that our peoples have been enemies? Your skin is beautiful, responded Ethan with sincerity. And as for our peoples, perhaps we can be the beginning of something different. Morrison and Dakota just agreed to work together. If they can do it, why can't we? Naira laughed softly, a sound that was half joy, half disbelief. You are an optimist, Ethan Carter. Or a fool in love, he admitted, surprising himself with the frankness of his words. The silence that followed was profound. Naira looked at him with wide eyes, processing what she had just heard. In love? She whispered. We just met. I know, said Ethan. It makes no sense, but here is the truth. I have met many women in my life, some beautiful, some intelligent, but none have made me feel what I felt today when I saw you. It is as if my heart recognized something that my mind is still trying to comprehend. Naira closed her eyes for a moment, and when she opened them again, there were tears running down her cheeks. I thought I was crazy, she confessed. For months I have watched you in town. The way you treat people with respect, no matter who they are. How you helped Widow Johnson with her purchases without expecting anything in return. How you defended the young Apache who was unjustly accused of theft. I have seen you, Ethan, and every time I did, my heart accelerated a little more. Why didn't you approach me before? He asked. Because I was afraid, she admitted. Afraid that you wouldn't feel the same. Afraid of the consequences. Afraid of hurting my family. But today, when I saw you in the store, I knew that if I didn't do something, I would regret it for the rest of my life. Ethan raised a hand and gently wiped a tear from her cheek. That simple touch sent an electric current through both of them. You don't have to be afraid, he said softly. I don't promise it will be easy. I know there will be obstacles, that people will talk, that some will oppose us. But if you are willing to try, so am I. And if my father refuses, and if the tribe rejects me, she asked, her voice full of worry. Then we will find a way, responded Ethan with determination. Your brother said he would support you. That is a start. And tomorrow, when we work together to catch those thieves, perhaps we can demonstrate that our peoples can coexist in peace. Naira nodded slowly. You are right, one step at a time. From the distance, Dakota cleared his throat softly, signaling that time had run out.